There have been a lot of issues with regards to the various medicines, and of course now this is the only oral product that has not had a case of PML associated with it. Some people say it's a matter of time. I disagree. We had a hard time with the drug getting it past Health Canada, believe it or not. And Health Canada was insistent that it was an immunosuppressant, unless we did a couple of very important studies. One of them has been published a couple of years ago. It was a study on flu vaccination and whether patients taking this medication would impair their ability to mount a proper immune response to flu vaccinations, because we have a huge vaccination program in Canada that is free, and they literally send out the troops with needles every fall to poke everyone that walks by them. So they wanted to be sure that this program wasn't at risk if you took teriflunomide. We proved that with the Tariva study. The second one was a little harder and actually just got published last month in what we call the N-cubed journal, the Neurology, Neuroinflammation, Neuroimmunology, which is the Academy's online journal. And it was on looking at the response of someone who's on teriflunomide to a brand new possible virus. And we used the rabies neoantigen. We didn't use the real rabies virus. We used rabies neoantigen, which presumably most people would not have seen rabies, but it's a real one because that virus, of course, can cause a terrible neurological problem. And we looked at their response to the rabies virus, and very clearly it was not impaired by teriflunomide. Those two studies got it past Health Canada, who no longer considered it an immunosuppressant. Usually any drug that will reduce white blood cell counts, and certainly by the mechanism of this drug it does, but also that depression of the white cells also confers risk to development of things like opportunistic infections. And we really saw very few to none. There were a few patients who went into this trial or the trials with latent TB that probably should have never gone into the trial. I mean, these are the same patients who you would never give steroids to, who had reactivation of TB. So this is one of the reasons why before you start teriflunomide, it's recommended that you actually have a TB test to prove that there's no latent TB. And then once that's cleared, patients are pretty well cleared of any risk, because we've not seen things like herpes and other emergent viruses come out, and we didn't see it really in 12 years of monitoring. So I think that's fairly compelling data of its safety. The study program, which by the way is the widest of all the study programs for any other therapy. There have been 5 phase 3 studies looking at the efficacy of teriflunomide. It's been in studies since 2001. That's how long the development program has gone, and that's why we had the opportunity to monitor it. Now that there are other therapies, this is actually considered one of the new ones, believe it or not. Even though it's a 12-year study, it wasn't on the market until the last couple of years. Well, one of the most interesting studies I was interested in was following the patients who actually combined teriflunomide with one of the other first-line injectables. And this is the only one of these drugs that's actually gone into combination study. We reported those results at this meeting a few years ago. It showed not only that there was synergy between the two drugs, but also that there was no safety signal of combining them. This is so far the only field in medicine that has not lent itself to combination therapy. Not because it's not available, not because it doesn't make sense, but because of their cost. So nobody wants to combine the drugs because they're just too expensive. But it's coming, because as the generics start to roll out, and we've heard about one of those already at this meeting, as the generics start to roll out, I think the idea of a combination becomes more feasible. I think that makes sense for patients, because at any one time you don't know what mechanism is driving the disease, and if you can come at it from two different sides, which is what we've done in some of the combinations, it makes sense that you'd be able to get much better control over the disease in the long run, and with minimizing the exposure to risk of side effects. Right now, if patients are failing first-line therapies, we're going to riskier therapies that over the long duration, tend to bring new toxicities. And so they're always a concern, since the MS doesn't go away tomorrow, it's not a 5-year disease, you're treating for 25 years.